The band's back together. Hi, everyone. We are back in person. Maggie's visiting. And we have a special guest. Before we introduce him, I'm just jumping into it. Sorry, guys. Usually we have banter, but this is Average Age Groupers. I don't have the intro memorized yet. Where we talk about being average people that do endurance sports and help tell the story of other people that do it as well. I'm Laura.
I'm Maggie.
I'm Holly.
I'm Kelly.
So Kelly is our special guest, and Kelly is a endurance athlete. We're going to go through kind of his story to being an endurance athlete. But we met a few years ago at an Ironman, or getting ready for an Ironman. He's a friend of a friend of a friend. So our friend, I guess. And that's how we met. But so Kelly has done multiple Ironmans, 70.3s, 50K, you said earlier, and is currently training for a 100-miler. So we're going to talk about all those things.
All of the things. Yeah. So how did you get into endurance sports, Kelly?
I was at work. It was 2008. I had known my manager had done an Ironman previously in the earlier 2000s. And he walked up one day and said, "Hey, me and some guys from the neighborhood are going to do a half marathon. You should do it." And I'm like, "How long is it?" And he said 13.1. I'm like, "I think I could do that." And then I'm like, "Well, when is it?" He goes, "Oh, it's in like 4 weeks." I'm like, "Yeah, definitely I could do that." And I'd never run more than 2 miles in my life. I mean, in high school, I ran track. I only ran the 800 because at my small high school, the 4x8 relay team was one person short. And so as a freshman, I could run a varsity event. And so I ran the 800, but I hated the mile. I never ran any distance, but for whatever reason, I said yes. On the way home, I bought a heart rate monitor and I went and ran 4 miles. And
Wait, I'm interested in that. Your first thought was let me buy a heart rate monitor.
Yeah, well, because that's what my manager talked about. He's like, you get a heart rate monitor and, you do these structured workouts. And, he's trying to break down like an Ironman training to convince me to do a half marathon. And I was already a yes. Then I spent the next week like messing around trying to take a 12-week training plan that I had no idea what it was and break and smush it into 4 weeks and say that I'm going to do this. And I started it that night. And that was really the beginning, but very quickly, having runner's knee and everything that you would expect to go wrong and doing too much too soon. But in going through that process, I learned that I could do this and I think I can do it. And it gave me the confidence to start trying to sign up for more and do more and maybe a marathon. And so within a year, I was signing up for a marathon. And then that's when the whole snowball took into effect and trying to bring friends along to start trying to run. But that wasn't really the case because me and my friends all had young kids. And so I was getting up at 5 a.m. to go run and, trying to find some young professionals to get up at 5 a.m. and go run 10 miles is pretty tough. And so I did a lot of it alone and kind of always really have. I think that's what's always impressed me about you all talking and your connections and your group and making groups out of it and the support and everything. Because I feel I've always been just somewhat of a loner. Because at the time that, I was thinking of joining a tri team or joining clubs. They had structured workouts on structured days, and that just didn't work having young kids and in family time. And so I just stuck a lot of it out on my own.
So your first half marathon, you signed up for it
I
with
did.
this group. Did you do any runs with them?
No, we never ran together.
No,
I mean,
it was
my
solo.
manager lived in Middleton. I was kind of on the southwest side of Madison. And so again, it was a lot on my own and just following this silly training plan that I put together, running some 4s and then starting to build up in distance. And so
Yeah.
it was 100% solo.
Even the race, you ran by yourself too.
Yeah, we started out kind of running together, but, in our delusional mindset when we're getting into these things that somehow I'm like, I think I could be faster during the race. And, you start you start to try a little harder. And so I think I left them for a little while, but then I kind of knew that eventually my knee was just going to start throbbing, the runner's knee, and not having the strength and time on my feet. And, that happened probably around like mile 10 or 11. So then I was kind of hobbling in the last 2.5, 3 miles. And then the people that I knew, they were going by as
They catch you at that point.
they were catching me and passing me. And so, yeah, but I survived. And actually, I can honestly say that other than one crash on my bike, that was probably the only time I had like a physical setback. And this was 2008. So I feel I've been very fortunate with, just with staying healthy and staying, strong enough to keep going forward and picking up things and moving ahead.
Yeah, that's actually very impressive to only have that one injury and then one bike. Yeah.
Yeah. The bike crash is one that I knew, I think as any of you've all probably experienced as well, when you're on your bike long enough, something's going to happen. And, I had the idea that, I wonder if I'll be able to do something in the moment to prevent it from happening. But no, it's a rock and boom, you're on the ground and it's done before you even have a chance to consider it. So, but it was great to start getting friends to do it. I was kind of the first friend to get into running. And so that was neat, kind of helping a lot of people along in their running journeys and helping getting them started and converting to triathlons together and starting that training together. It was, that was a lot of fun, even though we didn't train a lot, but just, having the conversations and, I was always geeked out about talking about running. And so I went to work part-time at Fleet Feet just because I couldn't talk about running enough. It was the best thing ever. And just talking about it was exciting. And then just being able to go and make a little money and get discounts on shoes and everything was awesome.
I was going to say the discounts. That's really, it's key. That's nice. Get some free shoes sometimes, maybe. I have a friend who's a manager at a run store. And so sometimes they'll bring in products to test and then she'll just get to take them home for free. And I think it's helped keep her in running longer because the gear does add up.
It does. Especially as I'm training for ultra, I'm constantly looking for shoes and constantly trying to stay ahead of the game and having something broken in. But what I loved about the Fleet Feet job is it really put a fork in the road for me because there was there's a national or an international group called Achilles International that does all sorts of support and support an active lifestyle for people with all sorts of disabilities. And there's a local chapter that was in Madison. And the woman would meet every other week at the store to do a walk with the group. And she came up and asked me one day if I would be a guide for one of her blind friends to run. And it was, I quote it as being kind of an epiphany for me because I felt ignorant in the moment because I didn't know that was a thing. Wait, blind people can run? I mean, as stupid as that sounds, and then I was like, oh my gosh, how many times have I thought, it's too cold, it's too rainy, I'm too this, I'm too that to even go out and run, where there's this whole population of people that want to do it but need somebody there.
Yeah.
And so obviously I said yes, and that took my running and endurance on a totally different trajectory that I never saw, but a trajectory that I credit to keeping me in this. I feel I would have stopped a long time ago had it not been for the ability to have this way to start giving back, because by that time, I had gotten into triathlons and had done a half, and I was starting to train for a full. But in a way, it was always, to me, feeling like it was running its course. It's like, okay, well, I'm not winning. I'm not a top age grouper. Maybe I could qualify for Boston, but it's like, why am I doing this? And that really started to give me that resounding why to do it and why to stay with it. And that's just led to so many different directions and places that it's been amazing.
That's really cool. So have you guided people in races too?
So my first Ironman was 2012, and I still don't say it was my Ironman because I did it with a blind athlete.
Cool.
And so
your first Ironman distance was not even solo.
Correct.
You were guiding someone.
I was guiding a blind man. Yep, Rod. Yeah, and this was also back in the mass swim start days. So that's,
I was going to say,
that's where I consider myself kind of an OG Madison triathlete. It's like, because there's that cutoff of either you were part of the mass swim start or you weren't. But yeah, it was mass swim start 2012.
So walk us through, because we all know what Ironman looks like. Walk us through how that is guiding somebody else.
Yep. As I was improving my swimming, Rod was also, and he was reading a book and he shared the book with me, and it really changed my thought and language about swimming. And I feel it was one of my most valuable lessons I've had in starting to train for Ironmans, because we would have these conversations, but everything I wanted to talk about was what it looked like. Rod has never seen anything in his life. He was born blind. And so changing my language to talk more about your hips feel this way and your reach feels that way and your extension. And having those conversations totally changed how I felt about swimming. And it was probably one of the best swim lessons I ever had in my life. But, when you swim, you're tethered. And so we had basically a bungee cord between us, and it's just set at a relative length where, he can get away, but not too far. And then I'm on the other side. So if he's too close, he bumps me. And we positioned it so I was on his left. And this was at the time when it was the single loop swim. So it was all left-hand turns. So he couldn't get too far away from me, but also then he was on the outside of the line, of the direct line, to keep him out of traffic, keep people from swimming in between us, all of those things. So we're tethered for the swim, and then it's a tandem bike. And so I got to learn a lot about tandems and spend a lot of time on a tandem being the captain. And then the run at a course like Madison, where there's so many curbs, ups, downs, ramps, all these twists and everything, he just decided to hang on to my elbow. And so I joked at the end of the race, I had rod rash, because just from him hanging on to my elbow and we running the marathon, it just rubbed some chafing that was there. But
so you didn't tether, because do you typically, for blind athletes,
Yes.
do you typically tether for the run?
For most running races I've done, you tether, and a lot of that's just based on their vision. Somebody like Rod, who's totally blind, it's going to be a hand tether.
Okay.
Where, it's our closest hand is holding that tether together, and it's very natural, very easy. But somebody that has some vision, you want them to be able to use it because it's their balance, it's their normalcy in running. And so if you have like a running belt, we might have a small bungee cord between us, so they're close enough to grab if something needs to be urgent, or you're just both kind of feeling the movements and the distance. The idea is that you, as a guide, I'm swimming straight or I'm running straight, and they're adjusting with the tension one way or the other.
Wow.
There are so many considerations that I just haven't thought about what this would look like. The thought of someone swimming between you and running into the tether. Yeah, so that happened during the race.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Okay. What does that do then?
You just try to quickly get through it. I mean, I would reach and just try to push and shove the person through. I mean, usually, though, it is a faster swimmer, and it's not, somebody that's just like stuck there between you. So it happens pretty quick. And, I'm also trying to keep an eye out for it, just as much as you can, as much as you're just trying to sight forward, as I'm trying to just get as much of a view of everything, just to keep making smart decisions to keep us safe and a good distance from all the action. So, you swim a little bit more because you're offline, but that's the whole point. A boring, longer swim is better than running into that a bunch.
And probably just so many communication considerations throughout the day, I would guess. How much practice do you have to do together leading into this?
I mean, the more the better, but he lived in Green Bay at the time. We did do an Olympic distance triathlon in Denver leading up to that race, because there was an organization that did a lot for helping blind triathletes. And, we got to borrow one of their tandems for the race. But they were kind of hosting a small group of blind athletes out in Denver. And so we did the Olympic distance there right at the Broncos Stadium. And, that was really our first and only triathlon we did before leading up. We did do the horribly hilly hundreds, but we had we blew up the chain like 2 times. And so, by I don't know, we probably made it to mile 80 or 90, and we had already gone to 2 different bike shops to fix chains. And so we're like, all right, fuck this. We'll just wait for the sag and it get picked up and taken home. But I mean, it really wasn't a lot together, but we communicated frequently, just talking strategy, having the swim conversations. But during the race, though, it's definitely a lot of communication. If you think of the times when you're on the bike and you just want to stretch and stand up and, loosen up your hips, you're definitely calling that out. Starting and stopping, you're calling out, you're usually counting up or down to say, all right, let's push off to go. We did blow a chain race day on timber and tipped over right in front of the crowd. And I had the tools to put the chain back together as best I could. And in an Ironman miracle, a Trek van pulled up right then. And I'm like, I just need a chain link to put and boom, boom, put it together. But then we actually got the tandem started mid-hill.
Oh my gosh.
And so that was, that was pretty impressive. Yeah.
Anyone who doesn't know, it's so steep. I'm barely making up this hill individually on my trike. I cannot imagine starting a tandem partway up and making it to the top. That's very impressive.
My favorite part of that race, I mean, I have lots of favorites, but the one that I joke about is there were professional men at that race, and the women may have been there as well, but we were just coming out of Mount Horeb, flying down Jay. And at this time, the pro men were starting, they're already into their second lap. And so they start passing us as we're turning on the Whitty. And then we turn on the Whitty and we just start slamming it going down the hill. And we are hauling ass. And we're passing, and you start getting to the left because you want them on the right. And then we caught and passed a couple pros going down the hill right when but then as soon as we started to go uphill, just the look on their face to turn and look and be like, what the hell is this? But yeah, some of my fastest speeds ever on that course are on that tandem, because going down those hills, I mean, I'm familiar with enough and confident enough that we were hitting 50s going down the downhills, and it's just a freight train.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds terrifying to me. You had that experience. That's awesome. Okay, so that was your first Ironman.
That was my first Ironman.
And then did you do Sola? What was the progression?
Yes. I mean, I had originally signed up for 12 to do it on my own. I got in contact with Rod, and we had been talking for a while, and it was, he wasn't going to come out and volunteer because he's like, there's nothing for me to do. I'm not just going to stand around. And so he had his daughter register him online. He ended up getting a spot. So I was going to do it solo or as a guide, no matter what. But then, of course, I signed up that weekend to do it in 2013. So in 2013, I did Ironman Texas in May, and then came back and did Madison. But that was a DNF for me for a whole lot of different reasons. And, mostly I had never felt more like a rock star in my life than doing the 2012 Ironman with Rod, because there was newspaper articles, there was all these things everywhere we were on the course. It's like, oh, it's Kelly and Rod. And I mean, it was incredible. And then, running on State Street and people just like cheering so loud. I mean, as much as that's amazing on your own, it just seemed like so much more. And then come 2013, my life was totally different. I had gone through a divorce, and so many of my friends that were on tri teams, and you see them in the spots that they're at around the course, and they're all screaming their heads off in 2012. And then it was kind of, to me, it felt completely silent and different the next year on my own. And, that was tough. And obviously this was a choice that I had made. And part of owning it was just, working through that. But, as the day went on, it got harder and harder. And, about mile 9 into the run, I was done. And so, yeah, that was a DNF in the books for me.
Well, and I think it's interesting, though, of it wasn't something physical that pulled you off of the course. So much of the sport that we talk about is the physical aspect, but there's a whole mental side of it that comes into play. And that was the reason you DNF'd that race. You probably were completely physically fit and could have finished, but
I had plenty. I could have started walking. I mean, I was off the bike in 8 hours. Yeah. I mean, the swim and the bike, 8 hours. I had plenty of time to finish. I could have started walking, but I was, I wanted to do better than I did in Texas. I went 13 hours in Texas, and so I wanted to beat that. And it didn't matter that I had my bike crash and broke my collarbone a month and a half before. It's like I still wanted to, but that's the irrational side. I think that's the irrational side of a lot of us, that, we think we can do these things. And I think that's what makes us able to do it. But then it also puts us in situations like that where, I just kept pushing. I just wanted to beat 13, and I kind of wanted to be a little fuck you to the people that I thought weren't there supporting me. And so instead of focusing on the people that were out there cheering, I was focusing on those that I thought that weren't, even though it's probably not that they weren't. It's just the stories you tell yourself. But yeah, so that was a little bit of a crash and burn.
But probably a lesson with it as well.
It was 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And we always Monday morning quarterback ourselves. Again, why wasn't it good enough to just, hey, you're exhausted, you're tired, it was a tough bike ride because you couldn't be in aero a whole lot, it was windy, just walk and finish. But for whatever reason, in that day, in those moments, that wasn't good enough for me. And so I just rode myself and crash and burn.
I also who raced with pretty much probably still a broken collarbone.
Yeah, the bike was not comfortable. And I was surprised it was my swim time.
I was like, how was
right
your
up
swim,
there.
though?
Yeah, it wasn't that motion that really hurt. It was more, any pressure on the elbow that did it. But yeah.
I was just going to say, this makes me think of like the expectations we have on a day and then the reality of it. And this is something I've been thinking about a lot since Unbound. And also that I had talked to Brandon about before Chattanooga. And like going into a race and just thinking about what's one thing that's in my control that I can do better than I've done before. And if I can do that, then it's a good day.
Right.
But it's hard to stay in that mindset sometimes when the day is not going the way that you had hoped that it would.
Yeah, and that's actually where I feel guiding helps me be more focused on what really matters, because you're constantly making decisions to make the day. And, you know, for me, racing and running, training, it's all about finding flow, because that makes the time go. You feel great. You're able to keep going. And that's what I always try to create for the athletes that I've guided. And so it's making those little decisions to help keep them in that space and not interrupt it. And, you know, then it becomes more of a job than it is like, oh, I'm out here racing, you know, kind of doing my thing. It's no, I have to do this. I'm not going to mess it up for them. I'm going to do everything as right as I can and make the best decisions I can as I'm evaluating what's going on. And, you know, so I found that I'm very focused, but then after the race, it takes me about a day to wind down. After I've guided a race, because you're looking and paying attention to all these details that I never do when it's just me, and my mind is just going 100 miles an hour, and I'm trying to lay down and sleep, and I just can't, because it's, you know, I'm replaying all of these things and decisions, and so you get that when you're racing on your own, it sounds like.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's always the reflection when you are done of like, what if this had been different or that had been different? I think for me, like the longer I've been in endurance sports, there's some things that I'm old now, that I've learned how to like let go of though, in terms of some of that sort of stuff. There's a lot less of this has to be a certain kind of way than there used to be.
Yep.
So I'd be curious though, like, you know, 2013 obviously was an emotional, mental sort of breaking point for you, but you're still in this. It is now 2026. So let's talk about like what's kept you, what you've done since 2013, some of those stories.
Yeah. You know, during that time after 2013, I don't know if he knows what an important conversation this was to me, but I sat down with Zeus, who everybody knows. And because I've known Zeus for a long time, we worked at Fleet Feet together, right when he started getting into coaching. And we just sat down and had coffee. And he's like, you know, the sport turns over so much, even in Madison. You know, we think, and I thought that it was just such a small community that didn't have space for me anymore, or that I didn't belong anymore or whatever. And he just reassured me. He's like, it keeps going, you know, and it's bigger than that. And so that just helped me be like, all right, I can stick with this. And I've kept guiding. So, I mean, I've probably guided 12, 13 marathons since 2012, you know, 6, 8 half Ironmans, the full Ironman. I had another friend that's attempted Ironman twice with me, and he DNF'd twice. He's since completed and done other ones. So I think the short answer is I've continued to find ways to give back, whether that's fundraising. So I'm doing a lot of that now. I have a friend whose son has a super rare disease, and so I race to raise funds, and that's why I started getting into longer, stupid stuff like the 100-mile trail run, or in 2024 doing the back-to-back Ironman, the half and full. But also, you know, I've done stuff with my team Triumph. You know, they've been great. Last year was actually a really exciting Ironman for me because, you know, I reached out to David ahead of time and said, hey, I can get some volunteers to get on the bike hills to help push. And he's like, thanks for reaching out. We actually have 3 teams this year. So yes, we'll take that help, but also, do you want to drive one of the vehicles that's following one of the bike teams, and you get out in front of them and you hop out, you push. And the first person I asked if they wanted to do this with me was my daughter. And so we got to spend the day out there in the truck. I mean, we started out at the swim. We helped them get ready for the swim, helped get the athletes out of the water and up. And then we were in the van for 9-10 hours, or, you know, SUV, driving to a hill, getting out, pushing. There's probably 4 of us that were pushing. You just daisy chain, helping them push up all the hills as many as we could. And, you know, so all of those ways that I feel that weren't necessarily even competing, but participating back and giving back in some way has probably been most of my focus since 2013, and what keeps me invested in the community. And you know, that's why I'm always excited by like your camaraderie with each other and your support of each other. because that's what really keeps this going. And, finding personal connections for me is, that makes all the difference, and, hits all the heart feel spots that make you want to keep coming back.
I think it was one of TTLs recently that Nick was talking about, like the people that do like Ironmans is just like the checkbox and the bucket list thing to get it done. And there are those of us that like keep coming back. And it's like, sometimes you're like, well, why do we keep doing this? It's because we actually love the sport and we love doing it. And I feel like a big thing is like the environment at the end, like a race day. That's my favorite thing. Like you give me a race day with all these people that are like doing super hard things, and you like can see the accomplishment on their faces too. I'm like, that's why I love it. We keep doing this for that at the end.
Yeah. I think there's a balance with that, because, I raced with Aaron in Worlds 70.3 in St. George. And to me, that was one of my least favorite races ever, because I felt there was zero camaraderie on the course.
Interesting.
Where, everybody is just like, type A, I'm going to kill everybody in my age group and I got to win. And their coach is running next to them, screaming them. And I'm just like, man, this is the most beautiful place I've ever raced. I had a terrible time. I wasn't in the best triathlon shape because I was training to do the Chicago Marathon with a young autistic man who I've run a couple marathons with. And so that was it was more important to me to be ready for that marathon than it was. And getting invited to St. George was kind of a surprise. I mean, it wasn't, you get a random email and I'm like, oh, I guess it helps that there's 3 world championship races in this calendar year. So I guess I'm a leftover and I'll take it. It's a neat experience. But yeah, like the vibe of the athletes on there, until I was, doing some run walking at the end of the run and, meeting up with some other people that were kind of run wild. Then it was kind of fun, like the last couple miles. But everything before then, yeah, everybody was just so like hyper focused. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna beat this person, that it just didn't feel good to me.
I'm like, we've gone. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is like reminding me of some race experiences that I've had, including Unbound, where then it just like was not a day that I enjoyed as much. I talked about this when we talked about Unbound, but I love being in a race and meeting people and talking with them and running with them or biking with them, and like they're having a bad moment and I'm cheering them on, and then I'm having a bad moment and they're cheering me on. And that's like one of my favorite parts of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some races you don't get that as much, but
I think we're all different on that, because that is not like standout for me at all. Like I am not someone, I will chat like, hey, how's it going? Whatever, nice job, like your bike, like your kit, whatever it is, right? But I never have the goal of making friends on a race course ever. And it's not because I'm competitive. It's not like I am solidly below average. And in terms of Ironman finish times, I am like the actual average for a woman. So this isn't like because I want to go fast or whatever. I think it's, for me, very much like an individual moment, right? And like the experiences that I'm having in the moment and the like stuff I'm learning about myself. And to me, that becomes more important than everything else. And we talked about this when we told my story, right? Like I intentionally went to Boulder and did my first 70.3 in a place where we would know no one. Like there wouldn't be a spectator crowd. There wouldn't be like all of that, where it could just be about like, I did this hard thing and figured it out and made it to the end.
I mean, I also am like looking at all my races. I'm like, yeah, I've not made it. But like Maggie and Casey talk about it all the time. They're like, yeah, I met this person, then we ran together. And I'm like, I cheer for people, but
well, Claire has a woman that she like meet up and swim together from her Ironman.
From Ironman. And I was like, wow, okay. I like love being a spectator. I'm going to like cheer but like when I'm in it, yeah, sitting here pondering that, I'm like, yeah, I haven't ever made friends.
And I wouldn't say, and to me, it's less about the making friends out there, but it just felt really stiff, I guess. And because I choose to do a lot of stuff completely on my own. And I mean, you don't start doing trail runs and 50Ks and stuff because you're looking to be around a bunch of people, because that's not going to happen.
Actually, how to be very much alone.
Right. And so I don't mind the alone stuff. And I very much, am somebody to look and evaluate and learn and want to go back and get all that. But yeah, it's just a weird, stiff vibe that happy I did it, but I don't know if I would do it again.
So did you start doing ultras as a guide, or were you like, okay, I need a different challenge?
Yeah, it's just something else to do. I think I did my first 50K with Nick, and it was just kind of something that was out on the calendar. He's like, hey, look at this. I'm like, let's do it. And I think, he ended up bumping down to the 25 or something like that, but I still did the 50K, and that was fun. And running in the woods is fun, and just different terrain and, different type of hills. I love the mindset. Hey, there's a hill. Great. I'm walking. I mean, you can't beat
I have that mindset on the road.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and then now I'm, as I'm training for this 100-miler, I'm practicing run walk, and it's awesome. I really loved slowing down this year. I'm running a lot of the same routes I always have, but the things I'm noticing, like, oh, that house has an orange door up there. Just little stupid details that you're just able to see and enjoy, and just not being in a hurry and not being about time. And I don't care about heart rate because it's low anyway, and it's all zone 2 that I'm just plugging away at. And I really loved slowing down, and that's been a great learning point for me. And then seeing where I can take that, because I'm constantly sore. I'm constantly uncomfortable. I'm constantly trying new stupid things. I ran 14 miles here. I'm going to run 10 miles to a bar. I got a bartend at. I'm going to bartend for 8-9 hours, and then I'm going to run 8 miles home. I mean, but to me, it's like that's kind of the mindset attitude of like an ultra, where it's like, you go, you rest, you move, and it's just, and I've enjoyed the pace and what it's brought all around it. And I've just kind of had fun building what the training looks like.
I am curious, are you coming up with this training plan yourself, or are you following something?
It's kind of a mishmash, and I'm taking a lot of the learnings I had from doing the back-to-back Ironman, where, the weekdays weren't a lot different in doing the back-to-back than they were for either race on their own. It's just on the weekends when you start stacking things. And so I'm taking a lot of that, you're tired, and do stuff while you're tired.
Right.
And realize that you can keep going. Because early on, when I first started marathon training, it's like you start feeling tired and you're like, oh, I'm out of shape. I got to slow down. I shouldn't run this far, this fast. Or, I started finding ways to wind down, where now I really embrace that. And I can't remember which one of you brought up the ultra runner that talked about the pain cave, and
Courtney.
Yeah. And how I very much agree with that, because I'm looking for that, and I'm looking to stay there, because that's what's going to happen on race day. And, it's as fresh as I can come in. Eventually you're going to be there, and you got to know what it's like and how to keep moving. And that's been fun learning that.
Yeah. Where is your race?
It's the Badger 100.
Okay.
So it ends in Belleville.
Okay.
They bus us down to Orangeville, Illinois, which is, about 30 some miles south of Belleville on the Rails to Trail. And then, you come to 30 some odd miles up, and then you go back down, and then you come back up to finish.
Okay. What is the trail like?
It's all rails to trail. So it's all crushed gravel flat. And
Okay.
so I was joking earlier saying how I consider it like a JV 100, because it's not, it's not like the Kettle Moraine, or, where you have thousands of feet of elevation. I mean, it's flat. Obviously weather can be an issue on August 1st, 2nd, but overall, the variables are a little bit more locked in.
Yeah. Can you have a pacer for this race?
Yeah, after mile 30, you can have a pacer.
Do that?
I very much do. And so I think that's what was kind of my original solicitation to your group, because, one of my favorite memories of when I did the back-to-back Ironman was there's a teammate, a female teammate, that said her favorite part of Ironman was running at night. And so I've been trying to specifically solicit female runners to run at night with me, just because I take that for granted. I mean, I'll probably be running home from the bar at 2 a.m. tonight, and I love it. It's great. But, just a way to offer that experience to somebody that would want to.
That is awesome. It is such a cool experience when you feel very safe running at night. I think I have only had that actually in very remote parts of the woods, where I know there are only animals around me and not people around me. And it's so peaceful.
Mhm.
It's quiet. It's dark. Your senses are heightened because you can just see where your headlamp shows you in front of you. And it's a wonderful experience. That's really cool. You want to bring people into that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So still looking. If anybody's interested, let me know. I got some night shifts.
What is the longest run that you have done so far?
Last week, I did a 44.5-mile run inside a gym that I used to work out at.
On a treadmill?
No, it was about 1,200 laps on on their indoor.
Better or worse?
Well, because I'm trying to fundraise. And so again, you want to do stupid stuff. So people, raise like $1,500. Yeah, because it was 9 hours because there was a 9-hour gap between their last morning class and their first afternoon class. And it's a gym that I used to be a member of, Metabolic on University Avenue. And I know Ross well. And when I brought this up, he's like, sure, absolutely, you could do it. And so, yeah, I did that. 44.5 miles, 9 hours. In a couple weeks, I have another one coming up. I'll be stopping at most of the Zimbrick dealerships in the Madison area. So I'll start in Middleton and go to Fish Hatch and then the east side and then end in Sun Prairie and then run back home. So that day will be about 47 miles.
Mm-hmm. I just have to go back to running these many, many laps. Did you switch direction?
Yeah, every hour I switched.
Because otherwise, you're one leg.
Yeah, I know.
That's wild. Wow. How did that feel?
It was obviously it got tiring, but it wasn't terrible. I mean, I have some practice running in small laps. My former employer has a small gym where it's about 20 laps to a mile. And in the winter, I'd put like 10 miles on there. So it's not a new concept. Yeah. I mean, again, I've never been a headphone runner. He did have some music playing in the background. But to me, I feel that just builds the same mental strength you need to just stick with it and keep going as you would outside, if not more.
Yeah. I think that's a huge part of Ironman for me because you can't wear headphones. So it's, I think, trained me to get through really long bikes and runs without them. And now I don't want to listen to music. Yeah. I just like to be in my head.
I do too. Well, and I always tell people, I run so much on the roads and a lot in Madison. I'm like, I want every sense of mine to be very active because I've had too many close calls and, I want to have as much sign that I may get hit as possible and be able to try to react ahead of time. But no.
Awesome. Okay, so you've got 47 coming up.
Yep.
What does a typical week look like with your training?
Yeah, I'm doing 70 plus miles a week. So I'm in this weird, unemployed, nomadic hippie runner phase. So it's like on Tuesdays, I'm in a golf league, and so I'll run to and from. And so it's like 7.25 miles there, 7.25 miles back. Wednesday night, I always bartend. So that's 8 miles there, 8 miles back, plus 8 hours bartending. Then I have some friends that are training, doing some stuff. And so they'll run 9 miles and I'll go do that with them and be like, okay, I'm going to run home now. And that's another 14, 15 miles. And so it's been fun stacking things together just to mix it up instead of, I got to go out and do 10. It's just been more entertaining to kind of build it and make it in a way that fits right now.
Yeah.
And it's made it a lot less like a grind like I thought it might be when, that's the best thing of triathlon training is you get to break it up every day or every other day with something different, where this is just running. And so the ability to fit it in however it can, it's been entertaining. Friends like, hey, let's go to dinner. All right, I'll meet you there. So I'm changing and showering in the bathroom and splashing myself in the sink. I mean, it's fun with it. And, I think people have gotten a kick out of it. They're like, wait, you ran here? I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, why not?
So are you adding in like any other cross training type workouts or just solely running?
It's just running. I mean, I haven't gotten on my bike in a long time. I haven't been good and consistent with lifting either. So yeah, it's pretty much just primarily running.
That's a lot of running.
It is.
I mean, enjoy
plus
running, but
slowing down, my goal is 5 miles an hour. I mean, because that's kind of my run walk pace of, running for about 9 minutes at 11-minute pace, walk for a minute and continue. And it's about 12-minute pace total, 5 miles an hour.
It works.
Is that your whole race strategy? Is the run, you said run 9, walk 1 or run 11, walk 1?
Yeah, It'll vary. So early in the morning, the race starts at 6. I'll start 9 and 1. And then as it gets warmer, probably move to 8 and 2 or 7 and 3, depending on how hot it gets. And then as it starts to cool off, start chipping away again, based on how I feel, how the sun went. And, hopefully then at nighttime be able to get back to the 9-1 if possible.
When you raced your other ultras, did you use the same strategy?
No. When I did my 50 miler, it was a last kind of minute thing because I did Ironman as a guide with a different friend, and he DNF'd like right after this. We got pulled from the swim, and so I was like, well, what am I going to do now? I'm Ironman trained up, and I just looked and I was like, oh, there's a 50-mile trail run in Illinois. So I signed up because it was like 3 weeks later. So I think the next weekend I went and did like a 20-mile run one day and a 15 the next day. I'm like, oh, training's good. And then, and then I showed up and I'm like, oh, I'll just run a slower pace. And, and it wasn't slow enough. And the thing that I loved about that race is I had 10 miles left and there's these 60-year-old women just shuffling by and they're like, you're doing great. And I'm like, did you just wake up? Just as chipper and as awake, because they just, their strategy was in place. They'd run, they'd walk and just systematically do it. And I just didn't pay attention enough of that ahead of time to commit to it. But now being committed and practicing, I know it'll help a lot.
Yeah, I would say when I ran the 50 miler, the only ultra I might ever do, I did run a mile, walk 2 minutes until I couldn't. And then I walked a lot.
Yeah. I thought about, when I'm running on the weekends on my own, I usually run a mile and then walk a minute. But like when I did the 44.5 mile inside, it was strict. I was so excited to see that 00 on the clock or that, 1020, whatever it was, so I can walk for a minute and get some water and just stretch the legs.
So for this ultra, it's 30 miles each segment?
Ish. Because when you start in Orangeville, you kind of go past the main finish line in Belleville up to Dots Bar a couple miles ahead and then back down. And then when you come back up, you just stop at Belleville where like the Tri is and everything right there.
So how do the aid stations work for that race?
Yeah, so they have like 5 or 6 main road intersections that cross, and those are the ones that they set up that your crew can come. They have a bag drop, so I can have bags there waiting for me. There are a number of crossings that are, do not go to these, do not let your crew go. You could be DNF'd, because I think they're just trying to control how much of the traffic that they could stop. But yeah, so there's like 5 or 6 aid stations along the way that they have stuff stocked there to refill. But then obviously you can have, if you have something special that you want to have, you can have it there waiting for you.
I think that's the most fun about ultras. I've never done one, but you just like eat a lot of snacks.
Yeah. It's steady and, and that's practice too. I've been trying to, like even when I was running here, it's like, 3 miles, 30 minutes, eat something.
What are your snacks of choice currently?
Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I lived on those in my early Ironman days, Uncrustables. I don't know how many of those I went through. So those are big. And then just like a Kirkland protein bar, just because I have a bunch of them and they're easy to get. Those are probably the 2 main go-tos. I've never been like a sugar. I know people are like, I need my Skittles. I need my gummy bears. But I do need to put some more of that in there just to get that quick carb, quick sugar hits. So I'm working on adding some of those in there.
Are you carrying a pack with you?
Yeah, I probably will. I know I'll at least have my hydration pack, and that's got some pockets for probably enough snacks to get me. I think the longest stretches are maybe 10 miles. And so that's manageable with what I can put in my pockets, empty out, and carry with.
Yeah. 100 miles. How long do you think this will take you? Do you think you'll stop and sleep at any point?
I don't know about that. I won't leave it out, but my guess is 24 to 36 hours. They give you 36. Obviously, if my pace and everything goes perfect, which it won't, and, I hit all those times, it'll be somewhere around 24 hours, but, plus or minus 14 hours.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know, but to me, that's exciting too. When I was doing the back-to-back Ironman on Sunday, I just expected at some time during the bike, the wheels were off and I was just going to be slogging it in as best I could. And, with sticking to my race plan and everything, it ended up being one of my faster Ironmans. And so, I think just executing on what you can do, we'll see what happens.
I think going fully overnight, over 24 hours, that would just be an interesting experience. Like you hear about people who start to hallucinate and
I'm curious. I get brain fog enough, you just don't ask me to do a math problem while I'm running. So I don't even know what it's going to be like then. But that's why you want the pacers there, just to be like, hey, eat, drink, keep moving, keep walking. Did you go to the bathroom? Whatever. Right. Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Put on some sunscreen and just like remind you of all the little things.
Yeah, be my babysitter.
Exactly.
What?
I am curious a little bit about your back-to-back Ironmans, because isn't it 70.3 and then full?
Yeah.
So you're doing the longer one second, the second day?
Yeah. I mean, that's how Madison draws it up. So
I can't imagine doing that. That does not sound fun to me. What made you do that?
it was fundraising.
Okay.
Yeah, just trying to do something bigger than what I had done before and do something different. And who knows how long we'll have the opportunity to do it. I mean, the full Ironman's been here for a long time. The half completely sells out every year. The full seems to be dwindling. So, who knows? Yeah, it wasn't as awful as I thought it was going to be. But again, my fastest half is a little over 5 hours. I was like 6:20. Very purposeful. My swim is my swim. I'm not a fast swimmer. And so I knew just do the swim as I normally would and just be calm and come out like you didn't even really swim. And then the bike, I was 100%. Every hill, you rest. I'm going to get all the way down in the gear and just breeze it up a hill, use as little energy as possible going up. And then I'm not slamming gears, but, I've ridden these hills enough. And I love the Ironman course to know where there's easy speed and not. And so that helped on Sunday. But yeah, it was just more of a hitting a heart rate and hitting, sticking with a reasonable watts and staying with that. Saturday run was very much, you are not going under 10 minutes and just stick to it. And I did all those things and it made for a pretty fun race and I didn't feel bad afterwards. And then I had the same exact mindset going into Sunday, at least with the hills on the bike. And I was like, holy shit, I'm still riding, and it wasn't the fastest bike, but then I ended up running the full at the end. And that really surprised me, but I just credit that to not using much added effort on the bike.
Yeah.
Just taking what it gave me, resting on the hills. And then, one time I started to slow down on the run to a walk and I'm like, why are you walking? You don't even feel that bad. And so, just because there's like a little incline, like back in the weird neighborhood behind Camp Randall now, like after you cross the bridge and I'm like, just run, So I was really surprised to do that, but I think it was more just race planning and execute it.
Yeah. And it does sound like the kind of mindset that would translate really directly to ultra training and ultra racing.
I'm hoping so.
Yeah.
I'm making it up as I go.
It sounds like it would apply, so it makes sense to me. Yeah.
It's been fun.
Very cool.
Do you want to talk a little bit about what you're fundraising for your ultra?
Yeah. The rare disease is called, the acronym is FOP. I'm going to say it wrong, but I'll attempt. It's fibrodysplasia ossification progressivo. The terrible part about it is it's usually diagnosed in young children, 6 to 8 years old. It's where good tissue can turn to bone. And because it's a genetic disease, there's a whole scale of how bad it could be. My best friend's son, he has a lot of discomfort. He doesn't have any bone growth. But if you see him, being athletes and always watching how people move, you can just tell he looks stiff. There's no cure. Because it's a rare disease, there's very little money that goes to it or companies that want to throw a lot of money in research or trying to find a cure because you don't have a big client base. But the organization is the IFOPA. It's just the international organization that provides support to families. They support group events. Obviously, you can donate through them to either support group events, go direct to research funding. All the research is done out of the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. Yeah. The day that they found out the diagnosis, he called me and said that they're going to start doing fundraising to try to do it. And I had just signed up for 2017 Ironman that day. And so I'm like, well, I'm on board to do my part and start doing races. And so that's when I kind of started the moving to Keep Eli Moving campaign. That's kind of what everything is tagged under with all the social media posts that I make and the fundraising page that's through the organization. Yeah, it's been great. I was fortunate last year. They gave me an award for my fundraising efforts, so that was a pretty amazing surprise. I've been on their finance committee in the past for a couple of years, and a great organization. It's a bunch of great families, and it's just it's sad that it's just kids. I got to go to one of the family events last year, and it was neat to see kids that are alike and having this terrible disease, but just being together and kind of the comfort that they have of being with their people, kind of how we feel when we're with triathletes or other like-minded people. And so it's really neat that they do a lot of those things for the families and for the kids.
Have you been able to like guide for any of these kids? Have any of them wanted to do anything in that realm?
There's been conversations to see if I would do kind of a My Team Triumph arrangement with them. Nothing's panned out, but I'll certainly never put that out of my mind. Eli, my friend's son, he's like 6'2". I mean, he's a man. So, I mean, if he asked me to, I'd do it. I'd do my best. But yeah, I mean, I would. I mean, I very much enjoyed doing that with My Team Triumph and having the tie to the organization and the rare disease. I would do it.
Such a cool aspect of your story in endurance sports, like the thing that keeps you going.
Yeah, like I said, I probably would have stopped a long time ago had it not been for finding those. And what was neat was, I kind of finded the one in guiding, but then just seeing how it grew and being open to saying yes and seeing where it goes. I credit a lot of it to that, just being open to trying. And yeah, I've loved it. And I don't plan on slowing down. Well, maybe I'll keep slowing down, but maybe that means because I'm going further, but I don't know.
To that point, do you have any, I mean, 100 miles is a good goal. No need to have anything planned further, but do you have other things that you'd like to do in the future?
I haven't thought about any, people, and I'm sure you all get this too. It's like, oh, when are you going to do your next Ironman? It's like those questions come. It's been more of a, what am I really inspired to do instead of, hey, let's just put something on the calendar and do it. So I haven't yet, but there's certainly a lot of beautiful places in this country to race and run. And you're talking about your friend doing Moab. I mean, that all speaks to everything that I would want in a race. So we'll see.
Yeah. I wonder too, I don't know, like with a race like Moab, if there would ever be an opportunity to guide someone, but that would be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, a blind friend of mine, he lives out in Boston. He was the first blind athlete to try Western States.
Oh, yeah.
He got in on an exemption from, I think, Cliff Bar, because he does a lot of ultras. And so he does have guides. And so it's neat to see the creativity of how do you do this and, how they're using either his cane, with the guide right in front of him and he's holding on the cane behind I mean, obviously communication and everything is on different levels for the more difficult terrain that you're on.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's neat.
It's awesome.
It's like, I can't necessarily imagine what it's like to guide someone who's blind. I watched Heather Jackson's recent video on Cocodona and she just talked about like her pacers needing to and then how there's sections of that you can't have a pacer, right? And she got lost and then having to have somebody like talk her back to the course and like all sorts. Like I can't imagine doing that with someone who can't see. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Agree.
But it'd be really cool. Who knows if there's an opportunity to do that at some point.
We'll see. Call and ask. I'll probably say yes.
It's awesome. I can't wait to hear how this goes for you. I'm very excited to hear if you sleep, if you hallucinate, like just what does it feel like to run 100 miles? Just really briefly, last year when I ran in France and I did the speed project and I totaled like 37 miles, but it was over the course of 37 hours and it was some trail. My hamstrings have never hurt so much in my life, so I cannot imagine 100 miles. No. Good luck.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to it. The good and the bad, the ugly, I'm sure it'll all show up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it would be fun to hear how it goes. It was so much fun having you on today and hearing about your triathlon history and
yeah. Happy to share. I think I love listening to you guys. I think this is great and I'm excited for all your episodes to come.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to have you back, and I will make sure, I'm going to need you to send me the links to all of your fundraiser things. We'll make sure those go in the show notes and all the places that we share things like that. So definitely get that to us in case any of our listeners are interested in donating to your cause. Yeah. You want to go with all the things?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, I'm just like, how can I be a pacer? Mainly to run at night, because we don't get to run at night, but. Yeah, subscribe, follow, share, tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your cousins, I don't know, tell everyone.
We'll make sure Kelly's, all his stuff is out there, so follow him on his socials as well.
YouTube, TikTok, email, Instagram.
Substack.
I think I got them all.
Yeah.
And reach out if you guys want to be on our show ever and tell your story of being an average age grouper.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us.
Okay, bye.